Prologue. Prologue. The weight of the life. The world is a web of cold, mechanical necessity. It is a delicate clockwork where no nation is permitted the luxury of isolation. The stone of the western mountains provides the marrow for the southern forests. The golden light of the east fuels the very winds that scream across the northern wastes. This isn't a peace kept by treaties or kindness. It is a stalemate born of the terrifying realization that to break one pillar is to ensure the total collapse of the sky. But beneath the forced smiles of the embassies, a darker friction is heating the gears. Reality is anchored by four basic elemental codes, the root languages. In the east, the Daiko Teikoku, Empire of Great Light, serves as the bastion of photomancy. To the south, the Daming Ji Guo, Kingdom of Great Life, fosters the raw growth of phytomancy. The west is guarded by the Citadel de Pierre et de Force, the enduring fortress of geomancy, while the northern nomads of the land of sky and spirit act as stewards to the high-altitude currents of aeromancy. These are the fundamental arts. Any base caster with enough grit to endure decades of study can, in theory, master all four. But in this world, true power is a matter of birthright, not effort. They are the hybrids. Born from the union of two base elements, a hybrid's blood produces a singular, permanent fusion. They are the world's elite, the natural nobility. They command the searing heat of pyromancy, the jagged lethality of electromancy, or the mending pulse of biomancy. Their reach extends into the structural precision of crystallomancy, the living timber of dendromancy, and the crushing, invisible weight of psychomancy. While a basecaster spends a lifetime mimicking a fraction of that output, a hybrid is born into it. But this gilded cage comes with a price. A hybrid is forever locked into their specific gift, unable to ever learn a new art. They are static brilliance. Lately, the cage has begun to rattle. The generalist basecasters, the commoners who possess the freedom to learn every root element, are no longer content to live in the shadow of the specialized elite. In the soot-stained alleys of the great cities, whispers of uprising have turned into a predatory roar. The commoners have realized that versatility is a deadlier weapon than static power. In the dark corners of the empire, the call for a purge is spreading, a systematic cleansing to rid the world of those born into a power they did not earn. Outside this brewing war lies the glitch, hydromancy, neither a base element nor a standard hybrid. It is a rare anomaly appearing in only one of every 1,000 births. To the empire, it is a divine blessing. To the common man, it is a silent curse. Those marked by water are powerful but isolated, solitary exceptions to a crumbling order. 16-year-old Seishin knows these laws as a prisoner knows his bars. A commoner by birth and a photomancer by trade, he spends his days in the capital, the Daiko Teikoku, manipulating flickering beams of light while dreaming of more than just the sun. To him, the other pillars are ghost stories, the crushing weight of western stone, the living pulse of southern vines, and the wild currents of the northern sky. He has never stepped beyond the empire's borders, but as the world inches closer to hunting its nobility into extinction, the hunger to master the root languages is a fire that ink-stained manuals can no longer satisfy. He is young, untested, and a world away from the mastery he craves. But in a reality where the commoners are preparing to burn the world down to level the playing field, Seishin is ready to see if a boy with enough grit can unlock the world before it breaks. Chapter 1. It's only just begun. The morning sun of the Daiko Teikoku doesn't just shine, it judges. It blazes white-hot overhead as you step out from the cramped, familiar sanctuary of your home. Already the heat shimmers off the distant gold-leaf spires of the high districts, a cruel, glittering reminder of the wealth sitting just out of reach. The capital is a symphony of forced industry. Merchants haul carts with white-knuckled grips, and the air carries the sharp, metallic tang of burning coal mixed with a new, acrid scent. The lingering, ghostly smoke of a cleansing riot in the lower districts. The cobblestones are still cool beneath your boots, but you can feel the city's pulse through the leather soles. It's a frantic, uneven beat. A messenger boy darts past, his dark-cropped hair wind-blown, as he nearly collides with you. He rushes toward a lord's manor with an official scroll, his eyes wide with the frantic energy of a world on the brink. You pay him no mind, weaving through the throng toward the market. The aroma of freshly baked dough leads you to the shaded stalls, where a vendor weaves a weak, flickering thread of photomancy over his fruit to keep the morning dew glistening. "Good morning, young caster. Come, come." The man is a regular fixture of your mornings, his face lined with the comfortable creases of a life spent under the sun. His eyes, narrow and dark, crinkle with a genuine warmth that feels increasingly rare in these streets. "Good morning, Kenji," you reply, your hand brushing the smooth wood of his stall. "What have you got for me today? My mother's been asking after those peaches." "Plenty. Just got in some sun peaches from the eastern orchards, sweet as honey and twice as juicy." He leans in conspiratorially, his smile faltering as he glances at the generalist sigil etched into your leather bracer. He lowers his voice. "How is your mother's health? And little Ayako?" "They're well, Kenji. Mother's tired, but she's strong. Ayako, well, she's growing. She's too fast for her own good." "As they do," he sighs, his gaze darting toward the High District. "Between you and me, the alleys are getting louder. The radical generalists are talking about starting the purge before winter. The hybrid lords know it too. They're looking for any excuse to remind us of our place before the streets boil over. Better to keep your head down and enjoy the harvest while you can, yes?" "I will. I'll take a dozen peaches and 3 buns, please." As you settle the tab, the rhythmic, bone-deep thud of marching boots cuts through the market chatter. A squad of soldiers in polished, midnight plate armor sweeps into the square, moving with a predatory precision. Their pauldrons are etched with the jagged silver bolt of a high hybrid, a lord whose blood sings with the lethal fused currents of electromancy. These are the stabilizers, the elite fist of the nobility. The vibrant haggling of the market doesn't just fade, it dies. 100 pairs of dark, averted eyes fix on the ground. You instinctively press back into the cooling shadows, your breath hitching as the air around the squad begins to taste of ozone and dry heat. The squad halts directly in front of Kenji's store. The captain, a towering man with eyes like chipped flint, snatches a peach. He turns it in his gauntlet, examining the faint photomantic glow Kenji had placed on it, then crushes it, letting the juice drip onto the cobblestones. "You basecasters are getting bold," the captain says, his voice carrying the sickening crackle of static. "We hear the whispers in the soot. You think your little tricks give you the right to burn the world down and level the playing field?" You catch Kenji's white-knuckled grip on the edge of his store. "Captain, please. We are just merchants. We want no part in the purge." The captain doesn't argue. He simply flicks his wrist. A jagged arc of blue lightning snaps from his gauntlet, bypassing Kenji's weak light entirely and striking the older man in the chest. Kenji falls hard, crashing into the dirt as his store splinters around him, a stray spark hissing against the stones like a snake's warning. Before logic can override your anger, you step out of the shadows. You pull from your core, and a flare of photomantic light ignites in your palm, bright, pure, and defiant. But standing before an elite, your base magic feels terrifyingly fragile. "Leave him alone," you demand, your voice tighter than you intended. The captain slowly turns, staring at your glowing hand. His lip curls in utter disgust. A generalist playing the hero. You think a single root of light means anything to a storm? With a speed born of static brilliance, the captain lunges, his gauntlet clamps around your wrist. The sheer, overwhelming voltage of a hybrid, the perfect, lethal fusion of light and air, surges into your arm. Your photomancy is snuffed out instantly, swallowed by a power you cannot comprehend, replaced by an agonizing, white-hot pain that drives you to your knees. The captain leans in, his breath smelling of copper and burnt oxygen. "You commoners talk of a purge. You think versatility can beat blood right, but you don't even have enough heat to warm your own hands. Go home, boy, before you become ash in a war you can't win. He shoves you backward, leaving you gasping on the stones. Returning home, the morning light streams through paper windows, illuminating the simple, clean lines of your family's house. You cradle your scorched wrist against your chest, setting the salvaged, bruised peaches on the table. The scent of warm dough fills the room. "Mother, Ayako, come eat," you call out, your voice echoing off the low-beamed cedar ceiling, though it trembles slightly. Your mother emerges first, smoothing her simple cotton kimono. Her face is a map of the capital, high, elegant cheekbones and deep-set, almond-shaped eyes that carry the exhaustion of decades of labor. Her hair, once a lustrous raven black like your own, is pulled into a tight, practical bun, heavily streaked with silver at the temples. Behind her is 12-year-old Ayako, her rounder face still flushed from sleep. Her dark eyes are bright with a mischief that hasn't yet been extinguished by the city's gloom. "Seishin," your mother says, but her tired smile vanishes the second she sees your blackened bracer and the way you hold your arm. "What happened?" "The stabilizers," you say, taking a seat and pouring tea with a shaky hand. "They attacked Kenji. I tried to stop them, Mother, but my light, it was nothing against an electromancer. They swatted me away like an insect." "Of course it was nothing," she whispers, rushing to your side to inspect your wrist. "They are elites, Seishin. We are commoners. We survive by keeping our heads down." "Keeping our heads down isn't going to work anymore," you say, taking a long sip of the bitter tea to steady your nerves. But the warmth of the ceramic does nothing to chase the chill of the elite static from your bones. You set the cup down. The sound is heavy, a sudden anchor in the quiet room. "I have to leave, Mother. Today, before the sun reaches its peak." Her breath catches, the quiet exhaustion in her eyes suddenly giving way to a sharp, mounting panic. "Say shit, no. What are you saying?" "I'm saying I can't protect us like this." You press on, meeting her frightened gaze. "The alleys are mobilizing. The commoners are going to try and purge the elites before winter, but it won't be a revolution. It will be a slaughter. I won't stay here and be drafted into a suicide march. Nor will I wait for the stabilizers to burn our house down to make an example." "Stay, Seishin," she whispers, her hand reaching across the table to suddenly grip yours with a strength that surprises you. Her eyes are glossy with a desperate, mounting fear. "Please, let the world turn to fire outside these walls. We can hide, we can endure. I cannot lose you to a ghost of a dream." "We can't hide from lightning, Mother," you say, your heart heavy as lead. You look down at your blackened bracer. "My light meant nothing today. The single route isn't enough anymore, not against them. If I stay, I'm just waiting for the fire to find us." You look back up, the desperation in your chest hardening into a sharp, undeniable resolve. "I have to leave to find the rest. The heavy stone of the west, the vines of the south, the winds of the north. I have to master them all. It's the only way to gain the strength to match the elites. If I can pull the roots together, I won't just be a flickering candle they can swat away. I can actually fight back." You stand, the straw tatami mats creaking under your weight like a final goodbye. "I'll return strong enough to protect us. I'll level the playing field before the world breaks." A reluctant, tearful smile finally touches her lips. You have your father's stubbornness and his terrible sense of direction. She rises, her knees popping softly, and fetches a small lacquered chest of aged pine. She pulls out a dark traveling cloak, deep indigo, heavy, and smelling of the protective herbs she's kept in its folds for years. "Take this." It was his. And this pouch, just a few dried fish and some saved copper. Ayako, seeing the cloak, suddenly drops her peach. The playfulness vanishes as the leaving becomes real. She rushes over and hugs your waist tightly, burying her face in your shirt. "Will you come back before I grow up?" "I wouldn't miss it," you say, your throat tightening. You ruffle her hair, tied back in the messy top knot you taught her. "I'll send a messenger hawk once a week. If you don't answer, I'll know you're slacking on chores, and I'll come back, just to scold you. You look back one last time before you step through the door, forcing a smile as you look into your mother's eyes. You tell her and your sister you love them both, and will be back before they know it. The walk out the door is the heaviest thing you've ever done. Every step away from cedar-scented hallway feels like a betrayal of the earth itself. You pull the hood of your father's heavy indigo cloak low over your brow, keeping your head down. The trek to the harbour is no longer just a heavy-hearted slog. It is a tense navigation through a city on the verge of eating itself. The industrial soot of the lower districts hangs thick in the air, tasting of ash and impending violence. In the shadows of the narrow side streets, you see the reality of the brewing purge. Knots of radical generalists huddle together, whispering frantically as they pass crude, iron-tipped spears and bundles of kindling beneath burlap sacks. Their eyes are wide with the intoxicating, foolish fire of a doomed rebellion. They're preparing for a war they don't have the power to win. Above them, walking the raised stone overpasses, squads of stabilizers patrol with a relaxed, predatory arrogance. Their midnight plate armor catches the harsh midday sun, stray sparks of electromancy occasionally arcing from their gauntlets just to remind the streets who holds the leash. They know the alleys are mobilizing. They want them to. They're just waiting for the first stone to be thrown so they can justify a massacre. The stark contrast makes your stomach twist. A part of you screams to stop, to shake sense into the young commoners and warn them that a flickering root of magic means nothing against a few storm. But you force yourself to look away, swallowing the bitter bile of guilt. If you stay, you die with them. You take the steepest paths down toward the water, your boots slipping on the slick, refuse-choked cobblestones. You push your pace to a near run until the suffocating smog finally breaks, replaced by the sharp, tar-laced wind of the docks. International trade waits for no domestic dispute, and the harbour is a chaotic, bustling lifeline of merchants loading goods that the world cannot survive without. Amidst the groaning cargo ships, you find the Ember's Heart tied to the third pier, its sails being prepped for the relentless cycle of commerce that keeps the nations tethered together. Hugo, a man whose skin looks like cured leather and whose eyes are sharp as a gull's, approaches you. "Ah, you're here. I was starting to think you'd changed your mind." "The tides are in our favor," you say, clasping his forearm. Standing behind him are two men, their presence like weathered stone. "This is Armand," Hugo gestures to a tall, wiry man with skin baked dark by the sun and a jagged scar running through one eyebrow. He offers a curt, testing nod. "And Edouard." The second man is broader, his arms corded with the muscle of a man who spends his life fighting the rigging. He has a mess of unruly hair and eyes that seem to be calculating your worth in a storm. "Another mouth to feed," Edouard rumbles, though not unkindly. "Hope you've got a stomach for the swells, boy. The sea doesn't care for empire pedigrees." "He's got the grit," Hugo cuts in, though his gaze lingers on your scorched bracer and your father's heavy cloak. "He'll do." "I know this is a one-way deal," you begin. "How does the southern damning Jiguo sound?" The jovial light in Hugo's eyes dies. "The kingdom of great life," he repeats. "That is a long way, Seishin, a journey no sailor makes lightly." Sensing his hesitation, you pivot. "Then how about we just go west, straight to the Citadelle de Pierre et de Force?" Hugo lets out a long, slow exhale. The Citadel of Stone, that's the heart of the western peaks. High-level geomancy territory. You're sure you don't want the colonies? Good food, decent company, and no one trying to bury you under a landslide. "I need to see the stone for myself," you say, your voice firm, fueled by the memory of the electromancer's crushing grip. "I have to master it." Hugo studies your face for a long beat. Finally, with a grunt, he spits into the harbour. "All right, the Citadel it is. But you're paying extra for the detour and the extra prayers I'll need to keep us off the rocks." As you follow them onto the deck, the wood groans a familiar welcome. The air is thicker here, heavy with salt, tar, and the faint metallic tang of the sea. "Is there anything I can do to help us depart?" you ask. Hugo's lips twitch into a wry smile. "Help? don't sleep much anyway. The crew springs into motion. A sudden spark of playfulness hits you. A final desperate reach for the childhood you're leaving behind on the docks. Hugo. Can I say the thing? Hugo pauses. The thing. You know, hoist the sails, batten down the hatches, set a course, etc. Hugo throws his head back and laughs. By the light, Seishin, you've been reading those old tales. On this ship, we raise the sail and secure the deck. But for you, I'll make an exception. You laugh as well, the sound carrying over the water. You heard him, men. Hoist those sails, batten those hatches. The sea waits for no man. Armand and Edouard exchange a brief, weary look, the universal expression of working sailors humouring a paying passenger. Sure thing, kid, Armand mutters, turning his back to haul himself up the rigging. Edouard doesn't even look up, securing a heavy water barrel with a quiet, practiced efficiency. Hugo stands by the tiller, shaking his head with a faint smirk as the Ember's heart groans against the tide, pulling away from the only world you've ever known.